There's a certain quiet magic older women carry, and it's not loud or attention-seeking. It's found in the pause before they respond, the warmth in their smile when you least expect it, the way they laugh. Not at you, but with you, especially when life is absurd. These small things so often overlook are the ones men secretly cherish most. It's not about a grand performance. It's about how she leans in, listens deeply, and doesn't jump to solve or fix. Her presence alone says, "I see you, and I'm not afraid of what you bring." That kind of stillness. It's rare and it's real. There's something quietly disarming about being truly heard, no interruptions, no advice, giving, no meaning attempts to steer the moment somewhere more comfortable. Just presence, and older women, more often than not, have mastered this rare kind of listening. It's not a passive act. It's deeply active, grounded in empathy and self-awareness. When she listens, she's not waiting for her turn to speak. She's not calculating how to correct you or slide in a life lesson. She's there, really there, with you, heart open, mind steady. And that kind of attention, that kind of stillness, is powerful. Men feel it in ways they don't always know how to name. It's the feeling of not being judged for unraveling a little. It's the quiet validation of being allowed to sit in your own mess without someone rushing in with a broom. See, older women have lived long enough to understand that most of the time, people don't need fixing. They just need space to feel. They've sat in their own heartbreaks, their own silent battles, and they've learned. Rushing through pain never leads to healing. So they don't rush you either. They don't try to tidy up your discomfort with platitudes or quick fixes. Instead, they meet you in the middle of it, with their whole self, and let you talk it through, or cry, or just sit there saying nothing at all. Because they know that silence doesn't always mean something's wrong. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can offer someone, to just be with them. And men, they notice. They don't always talk about it, but they carry that experience. It softens them. It reminds them that connection doesn't have to be earned with strength or solutions. It can just be presence. It gives them permission to lay their armor down for a while, to not perform. There's a kind of radical acceptance in that kind of listening. It says, you don't need to be any different than you are right now. I'm not afraid of your vulnerability. And for men who have spent a lifetime being told to be strong, to be stoic, to fix and solve and move on, that message is a bomb. It's oxygen. It's love in its most courageous form. There's a quiet power in the way older women enter a room. It's not about turning heads or commanding attention. It's about something deeper, something steadier. They don't walk in trying to prove their worth. They already know it. They've shed the skin of needing to be seen a certain way. They've traded performance for presence, and that shift, it changes everything. This kind of grace doesn't come from external validation. It's built over time, from the heartbreaks they survived, the mistakes they owned, the dreams they had to rewrite. It's in how they hold themselves, shoulders back, gaze soft but unwavering, a stillness that doesn't beg for approval. They're not chasing perfection. They're choosing authenticity, and men notice. Not in the flashy, immediate way you notice someone who wants to be noticed, but in the slower, deeper way someone lingers in your mind long after they've gone. Grace in this sense doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean shrinking or staying small to keep others comfortable. It means moving through the world with a kind of self-trust that's been hard-earned. It means knowing when to speak and when to hold silence. It's in the way she says no without guilt and yes without fear. It's the quiet confidence that doesn't need an audience. Older women don't hustle for their identity anymore. They don't perform femininity, success, or confidence to fit into someone else's story. They've reclaimed their own narrative. They wear what they want, speak how they choose, and stop apologizing for taking up space. That alone is magnetic, not because it's loud, but because it's real. And here's the truth most people won't say aloud. Men admire that deeply because they too are tired. Tired of pretending, performing, managing expectations. To witness someone who's let go of all that and still stands strong, soft, whole is healing. It gives them permission to exhale, to stop performing too. She doesn't need to be the smartest in the room, or the most put together, or the loudest. She just needs to be true. And that truth, carried with grace, becomes the kind of beauty that doesn't fade. It becomes the kind of presence that steadies the space around her, reminding others that we don't have to strive endlessly to be loved. We just have to be ourselves, fully and without apology. And men, whether they say it out loud or not, love that. They lean into it because grace isn't weakness. It's the fiercest kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard. There's something deeply grounding about a woman who knows what she believes, and says it not to dominate, not to win, but to connect. Older women have spent years finding their voice, and even more time learning how to use it without burning bridges. When they speak, it's not to prove a point. It's to reveal something true. And the power of that kind of communication, direct but gentle, clear but compassionate, is something men don't just admire. They quietly crave. They've lived through the days of people, pleasing and walking on eggshells. They've said yes when they meant no, stayed quiet when their heart screamed otherwise. And they've learned, sometimes the hard way, that peace isn't built by staying silent, it's built by speaking with courage and care. So now, they don't sugarcoat, but they also don't sting. They don't weaponize truth. They offer it as an invitation. Here's where I stand, here's how I feel, and I'm trusting you enough to let you know. And that trust, that's the part that shifts something. Because when a woman speaks from a place of wholeness instead of hurt, men feel safe enough to listen, really listen. There's no guessing game, no hidden meaning to decode. She's not testing you. She's being real with you. That kind of clarity is a gift. What makes it even more powerful is the way it's delivered. There's no edge, no bitterness. Just steady, grounded truth. She might disagree with you, and she will. But you won't feel attacked. You'll feel respected. Because she knows how to hold two things at once, her perspective and your dignity. That balance, that's emotional intelligence. That's maturity, and for a man who's been stuck in relationships where every disagreement turned into a battlefield, it's nothing short of revolutionary. This way of speaking isn't about control. It's about integrity, and it teaches the men around her something important. That honesty doesn't have to come with cruelty. That boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to more honest connection. And that love, real love, includes the freedom to say the hard thing with a soft voice. Men may not always have the words to express it, but they feel it deep in their bones, the relief, the admiration, the respect that comes from being spoken to this way. Not babied, not bulldozed, just seen and addressed with kindness. And it's not just what she says. It's how she makes him feel in the process. Not wrong, not small, not defensive. Just human. That's how trust is built. That's how love is deepened. That's how respect grows quietly in the spaces where truth and kindness meet. There's a particular lightness older women carry, not because life has been easy, but because they've learned how to find joy even when it wasn't. They've lived enough years to understand that happiness isn't hidden in some future achievement or distant milestone. It's already here, tucked inside the quiet, ordinary moments we so often rush past, and this ability to pause and celebrate the small things is something men notice more than they'll admit, not because it's loud or grand, but because it makes everything around her feel more alive. She'll smile over the way her morning coffee smells. She'll light up at the sound of a good song on the radio. She'll say, "Look at that sunset," and mean it every time. She'll tell you what she's proud of, even if it's just that she went for a walk, kept a promise to herself, or made it through a hard day. It's not performative, it's presence. It's gratitude in motion. And for men who have been conditioned to keep striving, to keep pushing, to measure worth by output or income or status, being with a woman who celebrates the now can feel like a release. Like something inside of them can finally exhale. They don't have to impress her with a new title or convince her they're getting somewhere. She already sees value in where they are, in who they are today. That's rare, that's grounding. Older women know the secret most of us forget in the hustle. Life doesn't reward us more just because we do more. It rewards us when we start noticing what's already here. She's the kind of woman who'll raise a toast just because the soup turned out well, or because the two of you finally got a quiet night in. She teaches you, without preaching, that celebration isn't about spectacle. It's about presence. This mindset changes the atmosphere in a relationship. It turns pressure into peace. It shifts the focus from what's missing to what's already working. And that shift, it's magnetic. Because when a woman lives like that, men start to believe that maybe they don't need to fix everything to be loved. Maybe they just need to show up. Maybe enough is already here. It's not that she doesn't have ambition. It's that she knows joy isn't something to chase. It's something to catch in the little things. Shared glances, inside jokes, the way he reaches for her hand without thinking. That's the kind of woman who makes a man feel like life doesn't have to be a race. It can be a dance. A slow, steady, meaningful one. And when that happens, when the pressure drops and appreciation rises, everything becomes more intimate, more real, because it's not just about the big days. It's about how she makes the small ones feel big. There's something deeply misunderstood in modern love, the belief that closeness is proven by constant togetherness, by endless texting, by always being on. But older women, they've lived long enough to know better. They understand that love isn't measured by proximity. It's measured by trust, by allowing space without fear, by recognizing that distance doesn't always mean disconnection. Sometimes it means deep respect. She doesn't panic when you need a quiet night. She doesn't take it personally when you go inward, or when your words slow down. She knows how to stay connected without clinging. That steadiness, that emotional maturity, is something men deeply appreciate, even if they don't always know how to articulate it. Because in a world where people often mistake possession for affection, her ability to offer space without punishment feels like oxygen. Older women understand that true intimacy isn't about being fused at the hip. It's about being free and choosing each other again and again without pressure. They don't guilt you for needing alone time. They don't assume silence means something's wrong, because they've lived through enough relationships to know that healthy love doesn't try to control. It creates room to breathe. They don't disappear. That's not what space means to them. It means presence without pressure. It means being able to sit in the same room doing different things and still feel held. It means letting you take your walk, have your weekend project, follow your thoughts, and knowing that when you return, she'll be there, not with accusation, but with warmth, with curiosity, not criticism. That kind of emotional spaciousness is rare. It takes confidence, self-trust, and a heart that doesn't define its worth by how needed it is. She's not afraid you'll drift if she stops checking in every hour, because she knows connection is built in deeper places than constant contact. She trusts herself. She trusts you, and that quiet faith, that's what draws men in closer, not further away. In her world, space isn't something to be feared. It's part of the rhythm of real partnership, like breath. Inhale, exhale. Together, apart, side by side, with room to turn inward when needed. She knows that love that smothers eventually suffocates, and love that lets go often circles back stronger. And when a man experiences this kind of freedom, not cold detachment, but loving space, it does something to him. It softens the edges he's had to harden. It makes him feel safe enough to explore his own thoughts, his own growth, without fear of abandonment or blame. He starts to realize he's not being policed, he's being trusted. And that trust becomes a mirror. He rises to meet it. This kind of love doesn't chase. It holds. It doesn't demand constant performance. It welcomes quiet, and in that quiet, something beautiful blooms. The kind of relationship where both people can grow without losing each other. There's a special kind of radiance that comes from a woman who can laugh at herself genuinely, easily, and without apology. It's not the nervous kind of laugh meant to smooth over awkwardness or win approval. It's a deep, knowing laugh. The kind that says, I've lived through enough to know how silly it all can be, and how freeing it is not to take myself too seriously. That kind of humor. It's magnetic, and men don't just enjoy it, they fall in love with it. Older women understand that perfection is not only impossible, it's exhausting. They've dropped the need to curate every moment, to come off polished, poised, flawless. So when they laugh, especially at themselves, it gives others permission to relax, to breathe, to be human. They'll tell you a story about the time they wore 2 different shoes to work, or how they burned dinner again, or how they once tried something bold and totally failed. But they don't tell it to diminish themselves. They tell it because they've found freedom in not needing to always get it right. And that's self-acceptance. That's what makes the laughter so beautiful. Men feel safe around that kind of energy Because they're tired too. Tired of trying to look like they've got it all figured out. Tired of pretending they're not scared or uncertain or messy inside when they're with a woman who can laugh at her own flaws. It creates a space where they don't feel like they have to impress or perform. They can just be, and that's rare. Her laughter isn't biting. It's not sarcasm that masks pain or judgment dressed up as wit. It's warm, it's self-aware, it's full of history and healing. And when she laughs at life, the little disasters, the plans that go sideways, the phone she dropped in the toilet, it reminds you that joy isn't the absence of imperfection. It includes it. Her laughter becomes a bridge, connecting people not through power or perfection, but through shared humanity. And it's contagious because it's real. There's also something profoundly humble about it. She doesn't place herself above others. She doesn't need to be the smartest in the room or the most together. She knows life is funny, and we're all just doing our best. That humility wrapped in humor disarms even the most guarded hearts. And let's be honest, laughter is intimacy. It's how connection sneaks in through the side door. When a woman can find the ridiculous in the routine, the silly in the serious, she brings lightness into spaces that might otherwise feel heavy. She makes hard days softer. She reminds you not to take everything personally, not to grip so tightly. Her laughter becomes a balm, a rhythm, a reason to keep showing up. Just to hear it again. Men love that not because it entertains them, but because it invites them to feel joy too. To stop performing, to be present, to laugh not just with her, but because of her. Because she sees life clearly and still chooses joy. So maybe it's not the big gestures after all. Maybe it's not the dramatic declarations or the perfectly curated lives. Maybe what men quietly, deeply love about older women is the way they show up. With honesty, humor, and a kind of grace that doesn't beg for attention, but commands it all the same. They listen without fixing. They speak without wounding. They give space without fear. They laugh without shame. And they do all of it from a place of knowing not just who you are, but who they are fully, unapologetically, because older women have already walked through the fire. They've let go of who they were told to be. They've stopped hustling for approval. And in doing so, they've become exactly the kind of person who makes love feel like a safe place to land. They hold space not just for others, but for truth, for contradiction, for joy, for rest, for real connection. And men feel that. They may not always know how to put it into words, but they feel it in their shoulders when they finally relax. They feel it in their breath when the air doesn't feel so heavy. They feel it in their heart when they realize they don't have to prove anything to be wanted. They just have to show up. That's what older women offer, not just wisdom, but wholeness, not just nurturing, but depth, not just softness, but strength that's been lived in. And in a world obsessed with youth, let this be a reminder. What draws people in, what keeps them, is not the surface. It's the soul, it's the lived-in, laughed-in heart. Why? Open presence of a woman who's not trying to be loved because she already loves herself. That is the kind of woman men secretly love. And it's no secret, really, because everything about her shows it. Quietly, boldly, beautifully.